What's up, everyone? Today, we, the Covenant, will be making a Season 2 recap of and then going into potential things we may see in Season 3. Firstly, one of the main things built up in Season 2 was the introduction of Oliver. After Omni-Man's battle with Mark, Invincible's words give Omni-Man a new point of view, causing him to retreat and leave Earth. During his regret, Omni-Man finds a planet called Thraxa, where then smashes an ant and creates Oliver. Oliver being part Thraxan causes him to age much faster than normal Viltrumites who age very slowly.
Your brother ages quicker than you, but far slower than my people.
This explains why Oliver is already a teenager in the Season 3 teaser. We'll be talking more about Oliver later in this video, but for now I'll be continuing the recap. Another key point in the series is the potential of a Viltrumite invasion, which could introduce Conquest, one of the strongest Viltrumites and a tyrant who solely fights for through a battle, and not the Viltrumite cause of expanding the Empire. But what I want to touch on now, which we believe will be the main plot point that we build upon in Season 3, which is the fight with Angstrom. And if you're forgetting who that is, it's the guy that looks like Dr. Spanflex. Main importance of this fight is the morality of the situation. Angstrom's motivation was faulty, where he believed every Invincible was evil because of the memories of his other multiversal variants that encountered different Marks that sided with Omni-Man. Now, the reason this would affect Mark is because he was the reason his machine failed, causing him to become like this in the first place.
I am Angstrom Levy, and you made me into a monster.
I didn't do anything to you. Your machine blew up.
Meaning he must feel like it was his ignorance of the situation that not only put the civilians in danger due to Angstrom's outburst, but also because of the eventual last fight where Mark loses control and kills Angstrom. This was extremely important because this was during a time where Mark felt like he needed to prove he was different to his father, only for him to cause Angstrom to become evil and for him to be the first person Mark kills.
I'm saving the world from Omni-Man's son!
Making this fight with Angstrom a pivotal moment where Mark confronts the morality and consequences of his actions and the similarities he has to his father. Now, how this can build up to Season 3 is through a change in direction of Mark, who may question his value of human life and could create tensions with the government and Cecil, who we saw in Season 2 had just found a weakness to Viltrumites through Invincible's fight with a Depth Dweller. And lastly, another big plot point built up in Season 2 was when Mark went into an alternate universe where he meets up with a future version of the new Guardians of the Globe. Future Adam Eve tells Invincible to tell current Adam Eve how he feels about her. This could create a romantic relationship between the two, or could go a completely different route where Mark confesses that he only sees Adam Eve as a friend.
Tell her you love her. Or tell her you don't love her. Just tell her something.
Overall, Season 2 spent a lot of time building up events and characters to be used. Now let's look at teasers and comics to see the potential story in Season 3.
Alright, so the first thing that we see in the Season 3 trailer is training, and Cecil is telling us that Mark has gotten significantly stronger and faster the last time we seen him.
Mark's speed has increased 65%, his endurance 70%, and his strength 138%.
The first scene is actually what we see in the comics, where we see Mark is training with magnets. Cecil says that these magnets are the equivalent of 400 tons, which simplified is basically 881,000 pounds or 400,000 kilograms. We then see that Rexplode is actually okay and out of the hospital. But that doesn't last long, because the very first mission that they go on, he ends up getting jumped by Duplicate's brother. This is the first time that we see Multipol, and he's just mad that Rexplode let his sister die. And that's why we end up getting this scene from the trailer. But what I want you to actually pay attention to is this robot Mark is seen fighting in the Season 3 trailer. Now, these robots have two different functions. They're either going to be used in case all heroes are not available, or Oliver or Invincible turns on Earth. The first time we see these things is when Doc Seismic captures all the heroes and then takes out Adam, Eve, and Invincible. So Cecil's over here thinking to himself now, oh, I have no more heroes to protect Earth. Let me go see if those robots are ready. And so when these robots are on their way to save Mark, Mark realizes these are the same robots that he ended up fighting back in Season 1. Now, this is where Mark and Cecil first start having their problem. Mark is thinking to himself that Cecil might just be using Sinclair's blueprints to make these things, but he later finds out that Cecil and Sinclair are working together. So as all of this is happening and Mark is yelling at Cecil, Cecil starts getting very paranoid. That's why in the trailer we see Cecil explain that he's in the White Room because he's trying to protect himself from Mark.
Protection from what?
From you, Mark.
Now, this is the part where we find out that Cecil had put a weapon in Mark's ear the second he got knocked out by Omni-Man in Season 1. This is so Cecil can keep Mark under control if he takes a turn for the worse. Then we get lines like this in the trailer.
You killed Angstrom Levy. Should I lock you up too?
You know that was different.
We start to realize Cecil doesn't only not trust Mark because he's a Viltrumite, he also doesn't trust Mark because of what happened with Angstrom. And then next we get this clip in the trailer.
Oliver, you gotta look out for other people.
So it's safe to say that we can see see Invincible training Oliver just like how Omni-Man used to train Mark. You know, without all the, the abuse and stuff.
But try it a little more like this.
Like what?
So I think it's going to touch up a lot on Oliver's connection with Mark. Should also expect to see the scene where Oliver and Mark go back and forth about whether or not their father was a good man. Oliver wants to be called Kid Omni-Man to honor his father, but Invincible lets him know that that's probably not a good sign since this world hates Omni-Man. But Oliver's telling Mark that he really doesn't care. He doesn't care if Omni-Man was hated on this planet. Back on his home planet, Omni-Man was loved by everyone. Now in the trailer, there's not too much to go over for Omni-Man, so we're going to look into the comics later on in this video to find out where we're going to see him at. But as far as the trailer, everything is looking really good except for some animation. But I think this is going to be better than the last season. But yeah, let's look at what we can expect to see in this whole season.
Before we get into this segment of art, I want it to be known that if you are not caught up with the Invincible comics, or you don't want spoilers of what's probably going to happen in the next season of Invincible, then I suggest that you end the video here. But without further ado, let's get into it. Following the ending of Season 2, we're left with Mark attempting to come to terms with the fact that he just killed Angstrom. This moral dilemma of whether Mark should kill or not kill his enemies is touched upon mainly in his relationship with his little brother Oliver. With Mark now taking Oliver under his wing as shown in the trailer, with Mark training Oliver to become a superhero, Mark attempts to instill the ideology that all life is precious and worth protecting, even if they're evil or have done wrong. This is something that Oliver heavily disagrees with, following under the tutelage of his father, somebody that he worships, even calling himself Kid Omni-Man.
He told me the O was for Oliver.
This is heavily shown when Oliver finally snaps and kills the Mahler twins. With Oliver killing the Mahler twins, the only person to comfort him is Cecil. This is extremely important because previous to this, Mark had told Cecil that if he attempted to recruit Oliver, that he would kill him. Mark's moral dilemma is a constant conflict that's presented throughout the series, with the first real example of this being when Immortal brought him to the future, with the sole purpose of letting Mark kill him because, well, he's immortal. Mark initially declines, but after seeing the way the future is going, he eventually gives in and pulls this dude's head off. The reason why I'm making this such a big deal is because this actually influences the ending of the season and where it's going to leave off, as well as giving an explanation on why Mark decides to make the choice that he does at the end of the season. But we'll get into that later. Following the ending of last season, we are led to believe that Angstrom was killed by Mark. But actually, I don't know how the this dude is like a french fry. He looks like Freddy Krueger. I don't know how this dude survived this shit. But he managed to survive and teleport himself to an alternate reality where he was able to get medical attention, if you can call it that. As revenge on Mark, Deadpool's ballsack, aka Angstrom, actually decides to sit there and go through a bunch of different alternate Earths, gathering as many evil versions of Mark as he can to invade our Earth. This is what leads into the climax of the season, the Invincible War, with each Mark destroying a different part of the Earth, such as Tokyo, New York, and wherever the Cecil calls as many individuals as he can to come help. And we get to see many individual battles that are super interesting, such as Spawn versus a Mark, which this Mark claims to have killed Spawn before, and Omni-Man Mark, which is claimed to kill, well, his father, fighting Shadowhawk and Madman. Due to the battle, this causes much destruction. This also results in the death of many different heroes, such as Darkhawk, and the most significant death in the season, I believe, Rexplode, who sacrifices himself to kill that Mark by making his entire skeleton kinetic energy and blowing it up. The dude blew himself up. But besides that, by the end of the battle, there's 8 Marks left. These Marks get into an argument with Angstrom, demanding that they get their payments. Because of this, Angstrom locks them in the dimension that him and Mark originally fought in. On the hero side, Eve is extremely injured and taken to the hospital by Mark. At the hospital, Cecil pleads with Mark to come back to the battlefield and help them defeat the rest of the Marks. This is when he denies and says you have every single superhero working for you. But when he finds out it was Angstrom behind the attack, he gets behind it. After a quick fight with Angstrom, Mark is able to take him down. This is where his moral dilemma comes into play once again. When he has him subdued, he decides to kill him due to Oliver, insisting that he's gonna hurt more people and eventually convincing Mark to kill him. But right before Mark kills him, Angstrom opens a portal and escapes, that being without his arm. Soon after the Invincible War, a Viltrumite known as Conquest is to check on Mark's progress on taking over the Earth, but is already under the assumption that Mark is failing. Mark being angry at all the death and the fact that his girlfriend is in, critical condition. He welcomes a fight with Conquest, saying, I've been looking for a fight to get my anger out. No, this fight is crazy. They start punching each other and shit. They beating the out of each other. With it being revealed that Nessa, the Viltrumite that, beat on Mark beforehand, said that it was extremely stupid for him to resist the Viltrumite Empire. With Conquest being glad that he's resisting so that he has an excuse to kill him. Mark in response minks this right in his face. Bink! Oliver then soon joins the action but almost gets put on a f***ing t-shirt, but Mark is able to save him. As they continue to fight each other, much to Mark's horror, having recovered from her injuries, Eve pulls up with a JBL speaker blasting Fetty Wap trying to help him.
but does absolutely nothing, gets put on a f***ing t-shirt. Damn. She got the H treatment under her. Because of this, Mark is enraged and continues to fight on. This even allows him to get the advantage for a moment by breaking his cybernetic arm. But unbeknownst to us, Eve is able to recover with one of her new special abilities, quote unquote. And she actually does something by burning the skin off of Conquest. This allows Mark to finish the job by headbutting this into oblivion. After the battle, he goes to see Oliver in the hospital. With his arms being broken and Mark being fucked up himself, he turns to Oliver and makes the ultimate decision. He declares that every single enemy that he faces must be killed and put down permanently. This is where I believe the season will end. Of course, there's going to be things in between there, such as Alan attempting to free Omni-Man and them recruiting Battle Beasts and stuff like that, but this was the main focal point and the climax of the season. As Pulio said beforehand, I do believe that this season is going to be the best one yet, and I can't wait to see the way the comics are interpreted and adapted into the show. With that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys have any other suggestions on what we should do, whether it's comics, video games, or Star Wars, or anything of that nature, even manga, let us know in the comments and we'll try to get to it. With that being said, have a good day. God bless.